Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Just want to make sure, Sayana, I'm looking at the CBIN window and it looks frozen to me.
It's showing your screen share.
Okay. All right. That's not what I'm seeing, but as long as that's what's happening, then I'll take your word for it and I'll go ahead and get it started. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tony Huang. I'm the Executive Director for the Office of Enrollment Management at UC Irvine. It's an honor and a pleasure to be selected to present at this year's UC Tech Conference. Javante and I are excited to share with you what we're doing at UCI that makes our campus leaders in the emerging field of enrollment management analytics. We call our system the Compass EMA, and it's a key component of UCI's data-driven culture. Our analytics application provides a suite of analytic tools to support the full range of enrollment management and student success programming for each of the colleges. Our system is utilized by all of our academic units to support a broad range of the institutional's operational planning and student success initiatives, including admissions, enrollment, course enrollment, student success, degrees awarded, school planning, and postgraduate tracking. Interestingly, the success and widespread adoption of Compass EMA into our campus's operation is not only due to a technical innovation. Its success also rests on leveraging enrollment data in a way that's not often associated with campus operations and using them to generate actionable business intelligence. Before turning it over to Javante, the star of our presentation, please know that I will be actively monitoring the chat throughout the presentation. So if you have any questions, please feel free to utilize that feature. Our time is short, so I want to make sure we give as much time to Javante and the presentation as possible. So without further ado, Javante, take it away.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, everybody, for choosing to attend the session. We really hope that what we have to share with you guys could be helpful and impactful, something that you can take back to your individual campuses. With that said, let me see. Just before we get started, just our agenda for today, what we want to do is we just want to share our data history, which just includes what our history, how we started, our data journey, the journey we took to get to where we are. And then we want to conclude with our data solution of the solution that we came up that we believe really helps our campus in their decision-making process. But before we get in, I just want to share a quick story, real quick, just to put things in perspective, a little bit in perspective first. So the other day, I heard this story while I was listening to the radio, and it goes like this: there was 3 different people, and these 3 different people were walking down the street. They were all coworkers. One was a manager, one was a sales rep, and one was an admin rep. So as they was walking down the street, they came across this bottle on the ground. So they decided to pick the bottle up. And as they picked the bottle up, they started to shake it. And what do you know appeared? A genie in the bottle popped out of the bottle. The genie told all 3 of them, he said, I grant each one of you 1 wish, a total of 3 wishes in all. But each one you get to give 1 wish. And so they fought over who would go first or whatnot. And so they finally decided to allow the admin rep to go first. So the genie said, what do you wish? And the admin rep said, you know what I wish? I wish that I could own a speedboat and I can spend the rest of my life in the river, in the ocean, driving up and down the river and ocean in my speedboat. The genie said, stopped his finger and said, your wish is granted. So the guy was instantly on his speedboat, driving up and down the river in the lake. The next guy came up, they decided that the next guy would be the sales rep. So the sales rep decided to make his wish. He said, the genie said, what's your wish? The sales rep said, I wish I can spend the rest of my life in Hawaii on the beach, getting massages from the love of my life. And so instantly the genie stopped his fingers. He was on the beach in Hawaii, hanging out, getting massages from the love of his life. So the final guy came up. It was the manager. The manager said, what do you wish? The manager said, I wish that both of those gentlemen would be back at work right now. And so the genie snapped his finger and both of those individuals back at work instantly. And so I tell that story is because a lot of times people make decisions not based on data. They make decisions based on their feelings, not thinking about how their decisions can affect the different people around them. And so what we wanted to do at UCI, we wanted to change that perspective and wanted people to be able to make decisions that were actually based on data, that they can make informed decisions on actual intelligence and not just on how they feel, their feelings or what they think, and they can take in consideration the people around them and also what's going on using data. And so that's how our journey really began. But before we begin that, we had to make sure we chose the right foundation. That was the key for us, was choosing the right foundation. It goes back to the story, this parable I grew up hearing all the time. The parable was about two people. It was about two builders and where they should build their house. So one builder decided to build their house on sand. One builder decided to build their house on solid ground. So when rain came or when the strong storms came, the house that was built on the sand ended up fading away. But the house that was built on the solid ground, it stayed forever and it was strong. No matter how strong the storm came, no matter how bad the weather was, the house always stood there. And so that's what we wanted to choose. So no matter what would happen at UCI, when something came along, we wanted to make sure that we will always stand. So for us, the key was making sure that we chose the right foundation. And so part of that foundation, what we call was actually, what we like to say is EMA is it's a combination of actionable intelligence and partnerships. And what we really big is on partnerships. We knew in the past that a lot of times what we did was we would build these fancy data tools and we thought they would be the best thing ever and that people would use them. But what we found out was that people didn't use them. And so we had all this data out there, but nobody was using the stuff. And so what we decided to do was to change our foundation and change it to being a partnership built foundation with the stuff that we built was being led by the end users and not what we thought they wanted. And so when we did that, it changed our whole work environment and it changed the whole outcome of our data environment at our school. And so just some real quick milestones about how we got to where we are. So in May 2019, the EMA unit was created. And the purpose of this unit was to go out there and try to break down silos, whether it was data or operational. And so that was the whole purpose of this unit, was to be able to go out there and figure out how we can bring all this data together in these different departments together and break down these silos. Our first opportunity came in October 2019 when the writing department, they couldn't correctly, they had a huge backlog in the number of enrollments for the GE required courses. In the past, they would go to many different offices and ask for data, and they would get the data, but it was never in a way that could really help them understand what the problem was and how to solve that problem. But we came along and we developed a solution that we'll show you guys later, how we were able to help solve that problem. So that was a key turning point for us. By February 2021, we really started breaking down these silos and bringing all these different data on campus together. By February 21, within about a year and a half, we went from having one partner on campus to working with 65 different departments and partnerships on campus. And it's because of that foundation partnership that we talked about that we tried to build with the users. The next key milestone happened in July of 2021. We introduced degree audit data into our portfolio, and we saw the usage of our analytics system increase by 200%. The next key milestone was in January of 23, is when we had so many users. We within this 3 to 3.5 year time period, we went from having 5 users to having over 500 users of our analytics system. And because of that, we decided that we need to really educate the end users on how to use this data. And so we started our initial training certificate program. And so those are the key milestones of how we got where we are. And so this is kind of like the EMA by the numbers and what we've done. So in 2019, we started with 5 users, and you can see our progression, how it progressed over the last 4 or 5 years. So we started with 5 users, and till today, we're up to 535 users. And so you can see that huge increase in such a short period of time. Over the same time period, we have developed over 200 plus analytical tools. The next thing we have is data sources. In 2019, we started with 1 data source, which was the admissions data. By the end of that year, we worked our way up to 7 different data sources, working with the registrar, working with financial services, and working with some National Student Clearinghouse and some other areas, and we're up to 7. By the end of the next year, we were up to working with 27 different data sources. And now at this point in time, we have 50 different data sources that we have implemented into this analytics system that we helped develop for campus. And because of that, we have over 75 different, we work with over 75 different departments on campus right now. And like I said, we went from having one primary department we work with to now having 75 different departments that we work with on campus. And in our system, when we first started in the first year, on average, we have about 35 views of our different reports and analytical tools. Now we're up to 3,000, over 3,000 average views per month. So we can tell that our stuff is really being used because we went from only having 35 views of our tools in a month to having over 3,000 now. And because of this success, we decided to start a data literacy program. And our average attendance for the average attendance for our training session is 125 users per session. And we offer sessions every other week. So it's not like we're just offering a session every 6 months or not, but this is every other week. And we're averaging every other week about 125 people attending these training sessions. So what are some of the type of analytics we provide? We provide, there's three different areas that we provide analytics for. The first one is operational analytics, which includes helping people understand the admissions life cycle, pipeline, enrollment management, course section planning, resource planning, space planning, and whatnot. We also offer student success analytics, which is designed to help advisors with advising, using degree works data to better understand students' time to degree and what requirements they still need to complete and which requires they have completed and haven't completed, looking at retention and persistence, also students who are dropping and stopping out, looking at co-curricular program, and also providing equity gaps analysis as well. But we don't stop there. We also provide research analytics, which can help people when they are trying to write grants, providing data for grants. If people are doing research on equity, to making sure that equity is accessible in the right courses, or where they're assessing a course outcomes or even a program outcome as well. We provide different analytical tools to help them there. So those are the types of analytics that we provide. And so this is what our system looks like. So what we wanted to do, we wanted to develop a place where there was a one-stop shop where people can go to. They didn't have to go to 5 different offices or 6 different offices to get data on anything they wanted to make a decision of. If they wanted data on admissions, they could come here. If they wanted data on enrollment, they can come to this one place. If they wanted stuff to help plan for section planning, they can come here. They can come here and they can click on the section within our app and they can get the data in what we like to call near real time. So we update our data between 1 to 5 times a day. So if it's in the admission cycle, data is being updated 5 times a day where they can come here real quickly and see how many people are saying they want to come to UCI. They get that, what we call that near real time data. It's not a day behind. It's not any census type data. It's actual near live data, and they can come here and get it. Maybe they're trying to schedule courses to see who has enrollment courses, who hasn't enrollment courses. Do they have enough seats? Do they need to add seats? So they can come here during the enrollment cycle and be able to quickly click on the course, click on the department, and get what's the enrollments for those different courses right at their fingertips. And so, like I said, it's a one-stop shop where people are able to come in here and really access the data without having to go to multiple places, without having to put a data request in. And we try to make it as intuitive as possible as well. So within our EMA app, we actually develop 11 different modules is stored within this app. So we have a module on admissions, we have a module on enrollment, which enrollment is looking at like students who are enrolled at the university, what they look like, and so forth, what majors they are, or whatnot. We have a module on course enrollment, just seeing who's enrolled in what courses, what's the capacity for courses, what has been the historical enrollment, why students aren't able to get in, anything you can think about that. Then we have a module on course planning, which really allows individuals to plan for the upcoming academic year. Where do they want to see? What courses the faculty has taught in the past? What's their availability? Looking at anything that's related to planning, how many people need to take a course that has satisfied the prereqs for that course, anything like that. Our next section is our student success module, which allows people to really understand time to degree. What are those bottleneck courses students tend to have or whatnot? And are there any equity gaps and stuff like that? Our next is our degrees awarded, which just provides any type of information on degrees and minors awarded at the university. Our school planning section is the customized section of our EMA app that we customize for the 13 different schools on campus. So we know every different school does things differently, and they have different business practices. So we design a customized section for each school that's based on their requirements that they need to help them plan for the upcoming year. Our next section is our end of term section, which allows people to process see the academic standings for students at the end of term, see who's eligible to go on academic probation, to see what students are off track from graduating on time. And then we move to our post-UCI, which tracks what happens to a student after they leave UCI, what grad schools do they go to, what careers do they go into, what salaries do they have once they leave here, anything that deals with a student after they leave UCI. And then we have our student support programs, which is the co-curricular part of our platform, which take co-curricular data, enrollment data, and tries to help people understand what programs people are participating in and how that affects their time to degree or not. And then our final section is our financial services section, which is looking at fees paid or fees owed to the university. So you can see we have data on all areas of the student life cycle, not just enrollment, not just admissions, but anything that's related to the operation and the runnings of the university. So we have that, and so this goes into how our data journey started. So if you look at these two lines on the screen, if you look at it, which one do you think is bigger than the other? Okay, if you look at it, it looks like the one on the top is bigger than the one on the bottom. But the case is that's not really true. And so a lot of times with data or even just in the way that things operate, you have to really peel behind the scenes to see what's going on. You have to start taking stuff away. So as we start taking stuff away, taking these in errors, what we really see is that these two lines are actually equal. And so this is what happened to us at UCI. We have to start peeling stuff back. We have to start, because the thing is, people always had access to the data. They just didn't know what they were looking at. And so a lot of times stuff seemed like bigger than what it really was, or sometimes stuff seemed smaller than what it really was. And so what we tried to do is we tried to peel back the pieces, remove the unnecessary noise from the situation, and make things clear so they can see that these lines are actually equal. And that's what we attempted to do. And that's what our data journey is really all about. So as we got out there, what we discovered is a lot of people was looking for help. There was deans looking for help. There was people in student affairs looking for help. There was associate deans, directors advising, and we just kept going and going. And we kept realizing that there's a lot of people out there who need help on our campus. And it's across the board. And so we wanted to figure out, like, how can we really help these people on campus? And so that's what started our journey. So we started our journey as UCI, this is us at the center. And what we started to realize was that there's different departments out there. We thought there was only a couple, but as we kept going out there trying to develop these partnerships, we kept figuring out that there was more departments out there and more silos. And we thought it was, okay, it's just a few. There's just a few, but no, you know what? They just kept coming and coming and coming. And the more we looked, there was more silos data silos and department silos out there. Everybody was doing their own thing, and we had to figure out, how can we break down these silos? How can we get this data into one place where people can effectively use this data to make decisions? And so it wasn't something that happened overnight, but what started to happen was a lot of these silos started to become our partners. And as they became our partners, we started to get access to their data that nobody ever had access to before. And we started to house that in our solution. And as time went on, a lot more of these silos started to disappear, and more disappeared, and more disappeared. And we're not saying that all of them have disappeared, because there's still some out there. But what we are saying is we have worked with a lot, and we have started to eliminate a lot of these silos. And it's an ongoing process. And so we're still trying to eliminate those silos today. And so how did we go about eliminating these silos? So this is our solution. So what you see on the screen is what we found was there was a lot of problems on campus. Like I said earlier, there was a lot of people looking for before I go any further, I just want to stop. Tony, are there any questions so far before I go any further?
Yeah, thanks, Javante. We do have 2 questions right now in the chat. They're both from Danielle. The first question is, there's no need to, we have mentioned that there's no need to open a ticket. So how does the data consumer request session reports and or modifications?
Okay, so I want to say there's no need to open a ticket, but what we developed is a partnership where people can come like directly to us and talk to us. So instead of having to worry about putting a ticket in and wait for somebody to get back to them, we developed this partnership where they feel like they can come to us so that they can feel a part of the process. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to try to give the users like ownership of the stuff we were developing, because we knew if we gave them a piece of the ownership, they would take pride in it. And so because of the process we developed, we allowed them to come like directly to us. Of course, they can send an email. We have a request form on our website where they can submit that. But a lot of times what people do, they just kind of pick up the phone or send us an email, say, can we hop on Zoom real quick to talk about something? And we say, yes, come right on. They come, they talk to us. We document what the request is. And then we go back and we start to build the solution for them. And then we give them a sample of it. And we say, okay, does this meet your needs? Does this not meet your needs? And so a lot of times they say, you know what, this doesn't meet our needs. We need to do this, this, and this. So we go back to the drawing board. We try to develop something that meets their needs and requests. And eventually they say, you know what, this does meet our needs. And we go from there. And so maybe we finish a project and it's like 2 months later. And they say, you know what, I want to know if you can add this filter. Because of the process we have set up, it's not much for us to add a filter or anything. So they just shoot us an email, and that's usually the way we handle these requests. So but what we tried to do was create an environment as well, where it was a self-service environment where they can go into the system and really get the reports themselves. They no longer had to submit a ticket to say I need a report that does this. We create this self-service environment where now they can go see how many majors they want. They don't have to put a request in every year to see how many majors they need. They can how many majors are part of their department or whatnot. They can. That's what I meant by that. So hopefully that was a long-winded answer, but hopefully that helps answer your question.
Yeah, that's great, Javante. And the only thing I'll add is also, it may seem a little counterintuitive, but a lot of this really happens organically, and all our teams, we're on Microsoft Teams on our campus. So, a lot of times any sorts of requests or questions just come through Teams, and it's something that can be answered right away. So I think from maybe an IT perspective, it seems counterintuitive, but a lot of because the system is so self-service, the questions that we typically get can be managed very simply, like just through an email or through direct messaging. The second question is, what are the reporting tools behind the reports? The platform that we use is Power BI. I think maybe if we want to get into specifics, we can maybe address it at the end of the presentation. But just to answer your question directly, the platform that we use for our system is Power BI.
Yeah. So like Tony said, I'm gonna show some examples now. But like Tony said, the platform we use is Power BI, And we just use that as the way to visualize our data. That's not where all the stuff is actually happening. One of our goals was to be as tool agnostic as possible. We wanted to make sure that if Power BI ever went away or Tableau ever went away, if the cost for something got too expensive or if there were better technology that came out, that we can easily switch to different platforms. So what we decided to do was do all the data modeling, all the data manipulation, transformation outside of one of these BI type tools. But we can go in more detail about that. So just some of the things we were able to do so far is, so some of the problems were there was course enrollment projections. There was no way for users to accurately project the demand for courses. They were just going and looking at what was the enrollment for the prior year, and that's what they were set capacity for courses for the upcoming year, what they thought the demand would be, what the caps would be. And so what we did was we actually developed an interactive what if tool for them where they can go in, they can select a department, they can select a course, and they can automatically get a projection of what that enrollment would be based on past behavior. So not based on what the size was, but based on behavior and who needs to take that course. So they can go in there, select a major if they want, and get how many students they think will also take that course from that major, and so forth. So it allowed them to be able to create different scenarios at the click of their fingers, and then provide them to really make decisions that was based on data and not just what they thought. They can get profiles of courses to see what those different what that course looks, historical enrollment rates and stuff like that has been in the past. Oops. Another tool that we created was so what we tried to do was not only create like just reports, but we tried to create analytical solution and tools. So what a problem was student conflict finder. There's a lot of people had to move courses because faculty could no longer teach a course at that time anymore. And so it was a process that would take people, they would say it would take them like 2 days to be able to go through every transcript. It was a manual process where they went through every transcript of all the students who registered for that course to see what time of the day they were enrolled in courses. So now what they can do within the click of like 3 clicks, they can come in here, they can select a course, they get a calendar view of what time of the day, how many students are enrolled in courses in that time of the day. They can then click on that number and they can get a list of those students who are enrolled in that classes. So they can come and say, you know what, 3 o'clock is the best time for me to move this course. Let me see who are those students. They can come in there and click on the number 6 that's in 3 o'clock, and they can get a list of all those students. So now they can export this to Excel, and they can they can do the outreach to reach these students to let them know that they're going to move this course, and they can make sure that they get enrolled in the course at the proper time that the faculty can now teach. And so, like I said, this was something that took days to do, which now takes them probably like 20 seconds to do. So for us, it wasn't just about creating reports, but it was about creating tools that can improve them, or new technologies that can really help improve the operations of their job and work. Another thing that people had a hard time with was understanding how many people were trying to get into courses but weren't able to get into the courses. So this is what we call our near real-time report, where it updates 5 times a day during the enrollment cycle, where they can come in here, they can select the course, they can see exactly how many people have been able to enroll in that course, how many people tried to get in that course, and what was that success rate. And then they can quickly see, okay, what are the reasons why students can't get in this course? Is because the course is full? Is because they don't meet certain degree requirements? It's all right there, so they can quickly see. They can then see what majors are the students coming from that are trying to get into this course. They can also see by the year, is this a course that a lot of first year, second year, third year students take? And what are the success rate of my first year students able to get into this course? So it's something they can quickly see at the click of their fingers. Another thing that we decided to do for them was requirement tracking. And so this is something that combines degree audit and degree works data with enrollment data. And so what it does is advisor can come in here, they can select a major, they can then select a degree requirement, and they can then select, I want all my students who are fifth-year students who haven't satisfied this requirement. And they can get a list of those, they can see the counts, and they can get a list of those students. Like I said, they come here, select urban studies. I want everybody who hasn't completed this requirement. And that's a fifth-year student. So now I have all my students who have been at UCI for 5 years, they are seniors and haven't satisfied this requirement, and also apply for graduation. So you can see how quickly that was to figure out how many students apply for graduation and hasn't satisfied a certain degree requirement. So it's right there at the drop of their fingertips. We've done other things that allows them to track the GE, how students are satisfying different GE requirements, so they can easily track that. If there's something dealing with a GETC, with transferring course students for transfer students, they can quickly get that. So you can see, like, it's not just reports. We're really trying to provide them intelligence on how to really make better decisions. And one of the final things we'll show is our course scheduling, space availability. So there was a problem on our campus where people really need to move courses and not being able to quickly identify a building that was available to teach that course during a certain time. So right now, what they would have to do is go to 2 different systems and compare data from 2 different systems. They can look it up in the registrar, they can look it up in R25 to see which classroom was available, if it was available during a certain time. What we decided to do was create a tool for them where they can come in here, they can say, okay, I want to be able to look for all courses that's offered in the spring semester. I want to find rooms that are available on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I want them to be available between, let's say, 1 and 2 o'clock. And just like that, they now have a list of all the classrooms that are available on Tuesdays and Thursdays between 1 and 2 o'clock. Like I said, in the past, I was told they would do this between multiple systems, and it would take them up to 6 to 8 hours sometimes to do. And so I forgot there's one more. I just want to show. So not only do we help support academic planning, but we also help support co-curricular programs. So our Fresh Hub Center, they needed a way to understand who was coming to the university. I mean, coming to the Fresh Hub Center, what days they were coming, because they weren't able to, they wanted to make sure they were ordering enough supplies for the day. And so what this tool allowed them to do is to see exactly when people are coming, what day they're coming. So not only did it help them with their purchasing for the upcoming week, it also helped them with their staffing, because they can see which days is the most popular day. Is it Thursday? Okay, but I can see nobody really comes on Friday, so I don't need as many staff on Friday, but I need more staff on Thursday. And so it allows them to quickly see that and make decisions. And so this is something that comes from our car swipe system. So we're able to get car swipe data into our analytics system and combine it with other campus type data. And so I know that's a lot. I just wanted to I'll skip that. And so I'll just stop here because we only have like 5 minutes left. And so I wanted to just open the floor up for any questions that people may have that we can address.
Excellent. Thank you, Javante. And we have 2 more questions that were just entered. And after we go through these 2, since we're in the question answer sections, if anyone else has any questions, I'm not sure if you're able to ask them directly in the session, but certainly continue to utilize the chat. So Javante, 2 questions, actually 3 now. Is there a centralized location where the underlying data for reporting is held, or is that still disparate? What are the primary data source locations? For example, AWS, Google Cloud, on-premises database like Oracle or SQL Server, etc.
Okay, so right now, I guess that's like kind of like it's 2 parts to that answer. So when we first started, there wasn't a centralized data place on campus where all the data was stored. The way our student information system was set up is that almost every office kind of has their own different system. And so, and the system, they talk, but they really didn't talk to each other. So you had registrar data somewhere, you had housing data somewhere else or whatnot, so that the system didn't talk. In the process, they started to build a student data warehouse that brings all that data together, and they're still in the process of doing that. But so what we decided to do was we decided the best approach for us was to build like this data lake-esque environment where we can go out and get data from all these different sources and just store it there so that we can have access to it, where it can be some of the data is structured, some of the data is unstructured, but it's there in case we need to have access and we can quickly run analysis and analytics off of it. And so we like I said, it's data lake-esque. So we didn't build it in AWS. What we actually did was we just took the approach of build it in Microsoft SQL Server for now, and maybe we'll migrate to AWS or something like that in the future. But right now, we took the design. So it's the same concept that you would have in any data lake environment, but we build it into Microsoft SQL Server as the backend, and that's where everything happens there. But like I said, we are in the process of they are in the process of building a student data warehouse. It has come a long way since we first started, and that is going to be like a source for us as well. But at the same time, we need, because we try to get like near lifetime data. Sometimes we still have to go to the source systems to get this data and bring it all together.
Hey, thanks, Javante. The next question is about actually partnership building. Are there any departments that you have struggled to create partnerships with or relationships with? And if so, how did that end up? And any advice on how to handle departments that doesn't want to partner closely with yours? I can take this and give Javante a little bit of break. And if he has anything to add, definitely, he'll do so. So, with regards to partnership building, relationship building, I'm not sure, I would frame it as a struggle to create partnerships. I think what we do is we make ourselves available and open as much as we can. And ultimately, if a department doesn't want to, doesn't need our help or doesn't want our help, then it's not something we necessarily have to, necessarily bring everybody on board. Certainly, the approach that we take is more of, one of support and collaboration and help. We are here to help them. So if they have an issue, if they have a challenge or an obstacle, if we can bring a solution to them, typically that's how the relationships start. As I mentioned earlier, at the beginning of the presentations, all of the academic units utilize our system. It's just a matter of degrees. We do have closer collaboration partners with certain units than others. But again, I would say all the units do use Compass EMA. It's just a matter of degrees. So I think our overall strategy is just to remain open and collaborative. And typically, if there's an issue that they can't solve themselves, and they come to us, and we're able to provide those solutions for them, then that's how we continuously build on those relationships. Javante, anything to add?
Yeah, I'll just add one thing. So we did have, there's some people who are our partners now that gave us a difficult time in the beginning. And they really didn't want to use the tools that we had. They were really wanting to continue to use their old way of doing things. But what really won them over, it wasn't really anything we did. It was more of the partnerships that we built with other people on campus that kind of told them that they were missing out and how great the stuff we had was. And because of that, it kind of changed their paradigm, and they start to view us differently, and they start to give us a chance. So really what really helped us was more testimonies from other people on campus who helped win over some of the problem departments.
Excellent. I see there's 2 minutes left in our session. Perfect, because we got one more question. It has to do with managing access, and I think this is probably a good one to end with. So Javante, the question is, how do we manage access to the system?
Okay, so the way we have a layer approach to managing access to it. So we manage access based on role types, and so every person who needs access, they go into a specific role or job duty So if you're advisors, you go into an advising role. If you are, a department chair, you have a department chair role. And so once we group the the users into the job type, we then group them into the departments. And so once they're into the departments, somebody from biology will only be able to see biology data. Somebody from engineering will only be able to see engineering data. So like I said, if a user comes in, they want access, we figure out what their job title is, we put them in that category. Once we put them in that category, we figure out what department they belong to, and we put them in that category. And then all their access is based on those two things, their job and the department they work for.
Sion, I think the session's over, right?
Yeah, we are at time. So I can end the meeting whenever you're ready, but if you want to give us sign off or thank you, you're welcome to do that before I close it out.
Absolutely. So yeah, we are at time, but as I mentioned, it's been an honor, and it's been exciting for us to share what we're doing at UCI. Thank you so much for attending. And Javante, as always, thank you for your expertise and sharing what you've been able to create and do for us at UC Irvine. Our information is in the conference information, but you also see it from your screen. Please feel free to reach out to either of us if you would like to continue the conversation. Otherwise, thank you so much also to our facilitators, Sion, and we wish everyone a great rest of the day.